Welcome to Peckham, welcome to DKUK, and welcome to the podcast channel. After much demand, we've finally put our podcast on YouTube so you can actually watch the haircut take place, as well as listening to an interesting conversation. Today, I've got a fascinating guest, Catherine Ince. I've been cutting Catherine's hair for a long time and we've had many conversations. Catherine and I both share a love for wanting to make interesting ideas for everyone to see. We believe that art should have a place in the mainstream as well as in the galleries. So the conversation went in lots of interesting ways. Something that really struck with me was what Catherine said about feeling like an outsider when she first started working in museums, something I can really relate to when I first moved to London. Now, the biggest project that Catherine just finished working on is the V&A East Storehouse. So she grew up in Hackney, and then on the edge of her neighbourhood, she's ended up building a completely new model of what a museum can be. It's a really heartwarming story, and if you've not been to the museum, I really urge you to go. Catherine's now a research fellow at Eames, taking a breather away from institutional life. All right, let's go and join the haircut and see what Catherine's got to say. Hello, Catherine.
Ooh, hello.
Hello. So, what are we going to do with your hair today?
Well, it's gotten big
Yeah.
and, a bit sort of like irregular, so it needs a tidy in the usual style.
Yeah.
The way you've done it the last couple of times, like cutting in here is nice.
So, not too much of a change.
No.
Okay. And
I'm at this point in my life a creature of habit.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. And we found a haircut that works for you.
You have.
We have. And if I remember rightly, we have been layering it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So the last few iterations
sits
here.
nicely here.
Yeah, because it can grow out a bit heavy.
Yeah, it gets very heavy
sides.
through here. And I end up looking like my dog, who's a cocker spaniel.
You wearing it curly all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And how do you dry it?
I use a Dyson hairdryer with a diffuser, and then sometimes I do the air wrap thing.
Oh, perfect. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And are you happy with the
But
results?
basically, I just tip my head upside down, and there's no skill involved in the way I dry my hair.
Any products involved?
Yeah, I've got the Divines. Is that how you say it?
Davines.
Davines.
Yeah.
Davines. Curl cream. I've got some leave-in conditioner, which is another Davines, I think. That's about it, and I don't use that all the time. It's a bit dry. I think I need a new hydrating shampoo.
Your hair
Yeah,
naturally
because I'm
very dry.
perimenopausal, so
Mm-hmm.
every week you find a new symptom of, dryness. I've got quite itchy scalp, so getting products to suit kind of what's happening with your hair at different times in your life is...
So has the menopause made your hair go a bit drier?
Yeah. Yeah. And it does weird things, like I've got really itchy ears.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Totally. But I'm not alone, apparently.
There's not much known about it, is there?
No, not enough. Not for those sorts of, little symptoms. I suppose the main ones are more and more covered. But yeah, you find the makeup of your hair changes a bit as you get older.
Interesting. Any other symptoms with the hair?
No, just feels dry and a bit kind of wiry. So that's why I've always tried to use hydrating shampoos, and the curl cream helps give it a nice sort of silkiness, I suppose.
Yeah. Because your hair's reasonably thick.
Yeah.
And wavy.
And there's a lot of it.
There's a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's falling out as well, but my mum was hilarious. She said to me yesterday, she was like, well, you've got enough. You can, you don't need to worry about it. And I was like, yeah, but still, it's a bit disconcerting when you're having a shower.
Yeah. So yeah, which curl cream is it that you're using? Is it the white one?
No. A silvery grey.
Gold bottle.
Gold bottle. Gold,
Yeah.
not silver or
Sorry,
grey.
And
Bronze.
did you say you put something on before then, like a leave-in conditioner?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. So that might be worth thinking about. When you're doing the curly hair, they say cream, gel, oil. So shampoo, conditioner first, then towel dry, and then cream is like a moisturiser, so a leave-in conditioner, then the gel, and then the oil to go on afterwards once it's dry. So the cream sort of locks in the moisture into the hair, and then the gel would be for the hold and the shape, and then the oil, generally I like to say that's just for fixing it where it's gone a bit too fluffy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe a leave-in conditioner might help with a bit of extra moisture. Shall I put a treatment on it for you while you're here to help?
Sure.
Give it a little boost with some extra moisture there. Yeah, it's tough for you because, like I said, your hair's reasonably thick. It is wavy, so thicker, wavier hair needs more moisture because it can't get the moisture from your scalp. Basically, the scalp produces the oils, and when the hair's curlier, it's harder for it to travel down the hair shaft. So if it's fine and straight, that's why it's
okay.
quite
Oh, that
oily
makes
and greasy
sense then.
quickly. And we've got colour in there as well, haven't we, which can also work to dry it out. So you're doing the right thing with a good shampoo conditioner, curl shampoo conditioner or a moisture-rich one, and also maybe a conditioner with a bit of protein in it as well to help for the strength, because the colour can sort of attack the protein in it. And then once you've got the hair in really good condition, it will dry a lot easier. Yeah. So the only thing we'll do a treatment which will help boost the moisture levels today. The only thing missing would be like a moisturiser, leave-in conditioner sort of thing, I would say. And you can use them both with the curl creams.
Okay.
So we will use one of those today as well, see how it feels, and dry really natural. I think you're doing everything right, putting the curl cream on. Do you give it like a scrunch when you put it in? Yeah, like a scrunch. Gets a little bit of the water out first, and head upside down is really easy, effective way of just getting a bit of volume in the hair. Because we cut in the layers in through the top, which are a bit shorter, that makes it a bit easier to get a bit of volume and lift and just like general shape. And then we've been graduating the back, which I think, even though it's been a couple of months,
I think so,
since it was
probably,
cut, the shape is still quite nice at the back, isn't it? It doesn't grow out too.
I think that's what those layers do. It retains its shape quite well.
Yeah. So it's a mixture of graduation and layers. So graduation is when you pull the hair out of the sides, and then layers is when you do the top. And so because we've mixed those two together, it just balances really nice for like wavy curly hair. It looks like a bob. It's the shape of a bob on straight hair, you know. Whereas if we just cut it like a normal bob, it would end up being quite like triangular shape.
I'd be even more like a spaniel.
Even more like your dog, yeah.
I mean, he's a handsome creature, so it's not so bad.
And then it's just getting that balance so we still keep the line here, but we've got that softness in the layers there. And then just as we're cutting the graduation, we cut with the point of the scissors, so we have a bit of separation and movement in the hair. And maintenance wise, 2 to 3 months is about right for looking after a shape like this, which is I would say about when you're coming back, isn't it?
Yeah.
2 to 3 months is about right. So 4 or 5 haircuts a year is a good rotation. Perfect. All right. So we're going to be taking about just under an inch off the length. Yeah. Keeping the same shape as it is, and refreshing all the weight out of the back, and keeping the layers fairly heavy through, fairly short through the front, so that knock out all that weight. So that will solve that problem of it growing out
being
too
bulky
heavy through the front and the back. Does that sound okay?
Sounds great.
Any other questions?
No.
All right. Follow me. We're going to get it shampooed.
Thank you. You're going to shampoo me with these on?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it sounds absolutely amazing.
Oh.
Okay, thank you for agreeing to do this, Catherine.
My pleasure.
So I'm going to start off and ask you, what was your earliest memory your engagement with something creative, art in the widest possible sense?
Yeah, this is a really good question. I think there's two sort of things that come to my mind. One is that my mum loves music, so there was always sort of music in the house. You know, we had a record player, and she loved everything from Elvis and the Beatles to Billie Holiday, and so that was always something that I've sort of felt I discovered and appreciated quite young. She was always very interested in art as well, but my parents were divorced when I was quite young, so she was working really hard, so it didn't feel like it was the sort of household where you kind of sat around and chatted about art or went off here, there and everywhere all the time. But certainly we went to the local museum near us where I grew up in Hackney, which is the Jeffrey Museum, which is sort of it's now called the Museum of the Home, and was where you kind of went to look at period rooms and interior design of kind of probably sort of just like average middle class homes through the ages. I love that, and going and discovering all these objects of kind of domestic life. But the most kind of specific experience, I think, was when I was at primary school, and I was trying to remember whether I was 7 or 8 probably, and we went on a class trip to the National Gallery, and I remember just standing in front of the Sunflowers by Van Gogh and thinking, holy shit, I love this. I don't know why I loved it. Maybe I like the thickness of the paint or something, or the colours, or just the abstraction. And they showed us one of Monet's paintings from the garden at Giovanni that they've got at the gallery, and you started to see sort of abstraction, and coming up close felt very different from standing further away, and things coming into focus. So that was a very pivotal experience, I think.
So it sounds like it was very much to do with the physical presence of the paint.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, just felt awesome.
That's cool. And very young age, right? 7 or 8.
Yeah, and I liked drawing and painting and making stuff. I was always making things. If I get toys, I'd make things out of the boxes that they came in. And so it was always I was busy in that sense with those kind of activities.
And did that lead you to do art with GCSEs and things?
Yeah, and design. And my design and technology teacher was amazing. I went to quite a strict Catholic convent girls' school.
Yeah.
This was state school, but very, kind of nuns who had very strict policies on how you behaved outside the classroom, and outside the school. Different shoes for inside, different shoes for outside. And Miss Wilson, Heather Wilson, was quite liberal, quite bohemian. I'm still in touch with her, actually.
So nice.
She was so cool, and she had this son
school?
called Titus, and it was like, I didn't know anybody called Titus. She was so interesting. Yeah, and my friend Jo and I did GCSE design technology.
Yeah.
And this was in the very early 90s, I guess. And it was when Twin Peaks was first broadcast on BBC TV, and Twin Peaks was broadcast
1989. That was.
Was it? Fuck. Okay,
Yeah.
so this was the late 80s. Twin Peaks was broadcast on a Tuesday, and our lessons were on a Wednesday. So we would go to class and Miss Wilson would set everybody some things to do, and then Joe and her and I would sit down with Miss Wilson and talk about the night's episode. What happened? What was it? What do you think? Yeah, and trying to sort of decipher everything. So she was great.
So was that secondary school?
Yeah.
I also have a Twin Peaks story. So
Oh yeah.
I'm a little bit younger than you. I must have
Most
been,
people are done.
I must have been 8 years old, but I used to stay up with my dad and watch it. But nobody else at
No,
school.
that's really young.
8, yeah, watching Twin Peaks.
Jeez, must have been
And
terrifying.
I remember the sheer terror of like Bob climbing out of the TV or climbing along the floor towards the camera, and it still brings me shudders down my spine now. And yeah, not
Laura
an easy
Palmer's
relationship
mum.
with my dad, but I'm not sure if that makes me like him a bit more or a bit less. I can't quite decide.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I used to kick my mum and my brother out of the front room. I wouldn't let them watch it because it would just talk over it or interrupt or something. I was just like, no, this is my time.
But it was quite the cultural
9 o'clock,
moment,
BBC
right?
2. Yeah, it was just like unbelievable. I'd never seen anything like it.
Mm.
My dad had quite liked Dennis Potter, so we'd watched a bit of
Oh,
Dennis
I
Potter.
see,
So there was.
yeah.
So I have memories of the singing detective and whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I know. Well, some people are quite snotty about TV, but there've been some remarkable programs that have just like changed your like Potter or David Lynch, just changed the way you think about everything. And that's what Twin Peaks was for me. That
yeah.
kind of cinematic
It definitely
television.
changed the game in TV, didn't it? There's not been anything quite
Just the weirdness
to
of
that extreme and weird and stuff. And what I very, very clearly remember, even being very young, is how omnipresent it was. Just everywhere, you see stickers, Who Killed Laura Palmer bumper stickers, and this was in Buxton, in a little town in Derbyshire, like it was a mainstream event, right? Despite
mainstream,
being
but still cult, though.
Exactly,
Yeah, they produced a little, they issued a book of the diaries of Laura Palmer, and then they had this guide to Twin Peaks as well. I remember getting, And my friend of mine who I met at university was, I don't know if he still is, but he was the chair of the Twin Peaks Society in the UK. And he brought loads of cast members over for talks and stuff. Miss Wilson encouraged me to study art history, which wasn't offered at my school. So I moved to a different school when I did my A-levels.
Really? Wow. Specifically to study art history?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to the Camden Consortium, so the secondary state schools in Camden. So it was offered at Camden School for Girls, which was quite it was a state school, but quite shishy. It was the first time I'd met anybody from private school. But it was cool. Yeah, and that's how I sort of ended up doing what I do.
And then that took you to university?
Yes.
And where did you go to university?
I went to university in Sheffield, first of all.
Very cool.
Yeah. And it was a really good... I got offers at different places, and including like UEA and Sussex, where there's good art history courses, but they're off-city campus kind of universities, and I think I decided I wanted to be in a city. And then at the time, this particular course was History of Art, Design of Film, and it was quite unique. It was only offered in Sheffield and I think Newcastle. And in Sheffield, the faculty were quite interesting. A lot of them were, connected with Griselda Pollock in Leeds. So quite a lot of feminist historians and Marxist historians. So it wasn't a sort of traditional art history subject. You got a kind of initial grounding in, long art history, but you really started in the sort of, industrial revolution forward.
Wow.
Which is good for me, as somebody mostly interested in sort of 20th century art and design.
Yeah, because was that Sheffield University?
Yes,
Yeah,
so Sheffield, not Hallam. Not Sheffield University, Sheffield Hallam.
Oh, was that Sheffield Hallam?
Yeah, which was the Polytechnic. And when I was there in the sort of mid to late 90s, it was at the Salter Lane campus, which is where the art school was. They don't have the art school like there anymore in a building, so it was completely separate from the rest of the university, and it was fine art students, studying sculpture and painting. They had different types of combined, media degrees as well. People who wanted to make sort of film and photography, but through as a more kind of visual arts practitioner perspective. But they also had a great film course, so that's where I did my sort of film history.
As part of the course.
As part of my course, but you got to meet lots of filmmakers, and they were making, short films. And, I was in a couple of short films for my friends. That was fun and mostly boring.
Because they're not always combined like that, art history courses, are they? They can be often
no, and it's quite interesting.
Academic.
Yeah, it was a great place to be. Like there's always just something interesting going on. There are a lot of 3D design courses as well, like furniture and product industrial design, and it was really good as an art historian to be part of that community, because art history is so sort of, I don't know, it's just a lot of beige girls who collect teapots and things like that. And not to be dismissive, but yeah, it's quite sort of a posh subject, I suppose.
Yeah, and it can have a reputation as something for people that don't know what they want to study as well, right?
Really?
I think so.
Yeah, okay. I'll take that. Yeah, I mean, I had great friends on the course, and I think because of that sort of the slightly politicized tone of the academic kind of community there, it really made it interesting. And quite different from your experience if you'd gone to St Andrews or something like that.
Yeah. And it's a very, we've spoken about this before, but Sheffield is a great, very bohemian city in general, with a very good independent art scene and music and film as well, right?
It's got
definitely.
A very
good history of a mixture of all of those.
Yeah, and it was really palpable at the the art school as that sort of community at the centre of it all.
Wow. Yeah.
It felt completely different to how that university experience is now. A lot of the subjects have changed or gone.
And Warp Records was around at that time. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
That was
Warp actually had their shop.
Was that on Devonshire Street?
Division Street.
Division Street.
Yeah, there were great club nights. Loads of and people stuck around after graduating as well. I stayed in Sheffield for several years, and
we think our paths may have crossed.
Yes, they did.
In somehow.
You just don't remember.
I don't remember. I was too young and scared. But yeah, I was.
Because you were at Halo.
The hairdressers.
My
first job in a hair salon. Yeah.
And at that point, I'd finished university and I was working in a bar across the road from Halo. And I lived with one of your colleagues. We shared a house, Ashley. And Richard, who was part of the hairdressing community. I think at this point he'd gone to Tony and Guy. I was just like, I don't care, just do whatever you want. So they just asked me to model. And Richard asked me to model for him when he was doing his sort of progression examination thing at Tony and Guy or whatever. Yeah. And there was some big show, and he cut have I told you this story? He cut my hair like Phil Oakey from the Human League. So I had
the
this like
Sheffields.
shaved one side, and like he put extensions in, so the other side came around like this beautiful bob. He dyed my hair like an indigo blue. It was very blue-black. It was very beautiful. I wore my hair really short at the time, like pixie crop short, and then I was in the bar and Phil Oakey came in because he used to come in for a drink, and I was like, oh no.
And he didn't have hair like that.
No, he didn't have hair like that, but like, you know, I was definitely...
I don't think he even had hair.
I was a bit mortified. But he's very quiet, so he didn't say anything. I just sort of scuttled off.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so that was... I remember you had black hair. Did you
I did have
you
black
dye
hair,
your hair
yeah,
black, or
yeah.
are you black haired naturally?
No, it was dyed.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember.
You were so tall and skinny with your black hair. That's what I remember. Oh,
Oh, funny.
oh sorry, I
Okay.
just dropped my
Yeah,
thing.
there you go. That's fine. We're still going.
Yeah.
So how long did you stay in Sheffield for then after uni?
3 or 4 years.
Mm.
Yeah. And it was great because it gave me... I ended up managing one of the bars, an independent bar, and it meant I could do funny things. Like we did collaborations with some of the galleries and museums in the city centre to host sort of resident artists. I sat on the public art commissioning board for the
Wow.
city council when they had like public art officers, and we did an open call for artists to develop a project for Devonshire Green. We worked with Gavin Wade, who's now Birmingham at East Side Projects. You know, so it was a way for me to sort of have the time and the space and the opportunity to sort of think about what I wanted to do. You know, whether I wanted to go into... I didn't really want to go into academia, but like what side of curating, museum and gallery work. So it sort of gave me a bit of a flavour of all of those things. I did some volunteering at the Design Centre in Barnsley. And that, because I was working at night, I could do sort of things in the daytime. And then I thought, you know, I probably need to be based in London if I want to be more connected to the contemporary design and architecture scene. And you know, positions in Sheffield were few and far between, so I decided to do an MA, and that back in London, and that gave me again the time and the space to just sort of reconnect with people and make some contacts. And
because just in case people missed it, you'd grown up in London.
oh yes, yes I had.
Yeah, so you'd grown up in London.
Hackney girl, now living south.
Come back.
So I used to come to Peckham a lot because I had an aunt that lived here, or great aunt.
And so you came back south, and did an MA. Where was the MA?
At Kingston.
At Kingston.
And
what
curating.
subject? Curating.
Yeah.
That was quite early.
Yeah,
Doing
yeah.
research.
It was the second year of our course, and the only other kind of main course was at the Royal College of Art. And
Which
this
can't
was
have been going for very long then,
No,
either, right? You know,
no.
they were very new by then, those courses. Yeah.
we. I was the second cohort, but it was good because it was focused also on design history. So it was positioned very differently to a kind of, again, another classical sort of art curating course.
Yeah.
In partnership with the Design Museum, and that meant that you had both the sort of history and theory, academic side, as well as the sort of reality of, you know, projects and teaching that happened in the museum.
Yeah.
So you quickly got to, you know, exploring it as a practice rather than as an abstract sort of theoretical thing.
Yeah.
So it was cool. It was, again, another place to meet super interesting people.
But I think a good lesson there is you didn't go straight into it, right? I think that's really important for people to think about. what you said there about just giving yourself time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there were some personal reasons for that too, but I find now that more and more young people are on a kind of crazy treadmill of just get all the qualifications, and that's fair enough. But it means that sometimes, like as you know, in my career, I've been in a position to employ people, and you get PhDs who've never had a job coming for a job, and it's like, don't underestimate what work experience offers you, even if it's not directly related to what you want to do. It just makes you understand the world and see the world differently, and gives you, you know, extraordinary experience in, you know, in communication and personal interaction and the different skills needed. So I always sort of encourage people to reflect on that a bit, you know, unless you want to go into academia or something. But
see, I'd done hairdressing when I was 18, which is either fairly hard, you know, hard work, hard partying, all rolled into one. So by the time I came to university at age 22, I could go out and have a drink, go to the party, and then get up and go to university.
And be disciplined.
You had to, because you know that's what you did as a hairdresser. You were well versed
so why did you do that then? What did you study at university?
Painting, fine art, painting.
Okay.
Yeah, after hairdressing. Yeah.
Why didn't I know that?
So I was still young enough to like have a lot of fun, but and be open to everything. But you know, I'd had a career before, so before. Looking and thinking about art had been, you know, something I only had time to do on the weekends. So
I think it's really good. It's really good to. I have artist friends who did something completely different as an undergrad, and then kind of went, oh, I think I would really like to do art, and went back and did it. And I don't know. I mean, if you want to become a practitioner, an artist. Do you need a postgraduate qualification? I don't know. I find that the friends of mine that have done an MA, you know, they probably were like me. They had some distance. They were trying to make things work, and then decided that they were at the right point where they wanted that level of engagement with, you know, a course, the people teaching on the course, time and space to develop their practice. So it's a very individual kind of, you know.
I think it's good to not just think it's the only way, isn't it?
Like definitely. And I think now with the fees associated with education, and you know, that not necessarily the job market having changed radically, I think a lot of people are thinking about like whether they bother with university altogether, which I think is super interesting and more, you know.
Definitely. I mean, bring on some apprenticeships, right? You know, skills-based learning. You know. Yeah,
exactly.
Have an apprenticeship in curating. You know,
yeah, there are.
Are there?
Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah. To the more sort of Renaissance model, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And also, you know, there's so many different facets to the world that I work in. You know, museums of all different type, gazillion roles within museums. Then you've got contemporary commercial galleries, other types of not-for-profit sort of public arts organisations. So you know, and it could be curating, but also you might be more motivated by working in a, you know, collections management role, or interpretation engagement role, or learning role, or a social media marketing. You know, there's technical services, like at the bigger museums. You know, for example, at the V&A where I worked, you know, there's a huge team of technicians who handle and move art and care for it and prepare, you know, install for exhibitions. there's also apprenticeships that are offered in those divisions of the museum, and they're amazing. They make all these beautiful mounts for objects. They're sort of a deep material and physical kind of knowledge of art and artifacts.
That transitions nicely to your first job then. You went straight over to the V&A after university, was that right? After your MA?
Yeah, kind of. I was working freelance for about a year, and I was working within the design and architecture department of the British Council, supporting one of the curators there on producing the Venice Biennale of Architecture. They didn't have a permanent role at that time. It was sort of more of a sort of contract position, which is also another thing that people have to do, like take short-term contracts and stuff. And
this was with the British Council?
Yeah.
Straight after uni?
Yeah. And I'd met the person I worked for through my course.
I see.
And and I also did a bit of kind of curatorial work for Selfridges when they were doing their big kind of, sort of curated thematic kind of takeovers in the store. I worked for a graphic designer called Morag Mileskov, doing like prep for shoots and things. So it was quite varied. And then a job came up at the V&A as a curator within the contemporary team, as it was called, and it's now become a sort of collecting department. And so I applied for that, and I got that, and I was doing a variety of things, from like overseeing contemporary focused exhibitions to the very nascent sort of early years of the Friday Late program that they run, which is still going, still brilliant. Lots of different sort of things, and I think I just felt quite intimidated as somebody sort of working class with a certain type of education, going into this very rarefied establishment institution that was huge, and I didn't want to be the type of collections curator that is most common in settings like that. I didn't want to be a specialist in X, Y, or Z.
Why did you feel intimidated? Because people were from different, around people from more different backgrounds.
Yeah.
So people who'd been
posher, and it's a closed loop sort of world sometimes, where you can feel
to a certain university or
and
certain pathways.
And even had a certain type of sort of secondary education where there's just a sort of different kind of literacy and social confidence, and and in part it was me as well, feeling the typical sort of imposter syndrome, or not quite right. I think also maybe I just I was quite young, and
how old were you
not in a relationship. I don't know, how old was I? 26, 27, something like that. And I think I just wanted to be in a role that was a bit more dynamic, although the team that I was in was really fantastic, full of great people, like Sean Cole and Lauren Parker and Louise Shannon and the great curators who've all gone on to do interesting things. So I felt very comfortable within that sphere, but I don't know, maybe I was a bit impatient as well. So I stayed there about a year, and I hadn't planned to leave, but my previous boss at the British Council called me up and said, I've now got a permanent position, come back and work for me permanently. So I was like, oh, okay then. So I had to apply, but but that, at the time, it was a cultural relations organisation that felt very, it felt like a great opportunity to work internationally. There were experts in all the countries where the British Council had offices who were, they were experts in the sort of art and culture of that place. So I did work in Mexico and Venezuela and Japan.
if I'm understanding correctly, the British Council's job is to promote UK British culture through art. Is that right?
Yes, I suppose it was founded in the interwar period to better relations between Britain and the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
It has, I mean, it's, you know, when I was there, there was sort of different divisions. There was a sciences area, an arts division, teaching English was and offering English qualifications was also a big part of the kind of operation, so that was a whole division. But yeah, the team that I worked within, and the arts team, they had specialists in literature, in visual arts, in design and architecture, in performing arts, music, creative industries. So there are all these like brilliant specialists who would basically work with colleagues overseas to make a program of events, activities, touring, exhibitions, exchanges between practitioners, supporting the development of new work, showcasing international work here in the UK at different festivals like the Edinburgh Festival, for example.
A lot of the artists who are 10 years above me, the generation above me, you know, who I was working for as assistants when I was first moved to London in 2004, 5, 6. Many of them said the British Council had given them their first grant or big exhibition, or you know, really been very instrumental in their careers. Yeah, so
they offered the
played a very good role, or international show, right?
Yeah, definitely. It was a way to kind of support the artist's ecology. The British Council also has a collection, like the government art collection or the Arts Council collection. They're well established, so it was an opportunity to collect art, support artists in that way. Tracy Emin, for example, talks a lot about the British Council giving her a travel grant very early on in her career, which enabled her to go and, you know, visit certain places or show abroad. And these, you know, they're quite modest in the grand scheme of things, but they are massive injections. And it's
about timing for artists, isn't it?
Yeah,
it
exactly.
Doesn't have to be a lot of money, but at the right time it can
exactly.
be. Yeah.
And it was also, I mean, I think it's changed a lot now and doesn't do anything nearly as interesting as it used to, in the widest sort of sense.
Probably through funding cuts, I would imagine, rather than...
Well, but also, you know, these kind of organisations, they get a sort of bee in their bonnet about something, and they, you know, leadership starts to interfere, and suddenly all of the work became a bit more abstracted and, I don't know, like just less interesting and less of an opportunity to support practitioners at a certain sort of moment in time. They also decimated the arts specialists around the world in favour of sort of generic project manager posts, and I think that was really a mistake, because it meant that the colleagues in different countries, in different cities, whom you would shape a programme or an exhibition with, you know, they weren't there anymore.
Yeah.
And that knowledge had walked out the door. And so, just, I don't know, it all felt like it sort of degenerated into a kind of rubbish TED Talk type situation. But anyway, maybe cut that bit out. But
I think by the time I came to, you know, it would have been useful for me. There wasn't much left.
Yeah. I mean, of course,
9, 10.
the money side of things is always going to be a challenge too. But what was I going to say? But I had an amazing opportunity to work in some incredible places and travel extensively. And then there was a point at which, you know, it was like, right, we need to do something else now. And that's when I moved to the Barbican.
Fantastic. And what was your role there?
I was a curator within the galleries team. So there's 2 galleries at the Barbican, the Curve and the main space. And I was brought in to kind of complement curators who were focused on visual arts, and I came from a design and architecture perspective. So
Did you apply for that job, or was that?
I did.
You did.
Of course
yeah.
you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were plucked.
No, I applied for it and made my way through like everybody else. Yeah, it was good.
What were the highlights from the Barbican years?
Many, you know. It was a small team. You had to do everything. So it's like great opportunity. You're like the curating the same space over again gives you an opportunity to sort of test ideas and grow.
We should give some background on the Barbican in case anybody's watching. So
All right.
the Barbican is an estate that was. Well, you can you give me a quick 2-minute?
The Barbican is an estate in the City of London, like in the city of London. It was an area that was heavily bombed in the Second World War, so they developed this new, you know, quite, no, I wouldn't call it sort of affordable social housing. It's public housing at the time, but pretty swish. Designed by Chamberlain, Powell and Bon architects, very sort of unique expression of British brutalism. Streets in the sky and kind of, you know, the cars are all sort of on roads, tunnels going underneath the buildings, and different. I can't remember how many residences there are. It's all apartment living in 3 towers and then some low-level blocks, and at the centre of it, right opposite St Paul's Girls' School, is an art centre, a multi-form art centre, and that was the last thing to open. And the building construction took many years. And the art centre, gosh, did it open in 1984? I think it was 1984. Anyway, it's got a concert hall, which is the home to the London Symphony Orchestra. It's got a theatre. It's often where the Royal Shakespeare Company present productions outside of Stratford. They commission theatre, they commission dance, they commission, have classical music programmes, contemporary music programmes. It's got a suite of cinemas, great, like celluloid film projection facilities, and then these 2 galleries, public library. So it's really a brilliant space in terms of its multi-art form kind of focus, and a really, you know, enjoyable place to visit with the sort of foyers and the gardens and lake in the middle.
Thank you. That was a brilliant introduction to the Barbican.
So I did, it was a small team. I did big survey exhibitions sort of back to back. It was the largest scale projects I'd ever done, so it was another great opportunity for me. The first show I did was kind of in train, so I just sort of took it over to deliver it. It was an exhibition called Future Beauty, 30 years of Japanese fashion, about fashion from Japan in the kind of, you know, Western international couture system, I suppose.
Did you have a background in clothes?
No, but I was very interested in fashion, and I suppose, you know, partly I wouldn't call myself a fashion curator, but the world of kind of, you know, design history encompasses some of that too. It was a collaboration with the Kyoto Costume Institute, who have this amazing collection of Western European dress and contemporary Japanese fashion, with some 8 sort of protagonist designers like Yohji Yamamoto, Reika Okubo, and Issey Miyake, Jun Takahashi, and some works borrowed from those houses specifically. And it was a beautiful exhibition. Everything was just, you know, they're phenomenal, the team there of conservators and mounters and curators. And the work is so sculptural and so conceptual, so it really, you know, really amazing to look at. And we worked with an architect called Sue Fujimoto on the exhibition design. And while I was sort of delivering that, I was also developing my first sort of show that I did that was, produced by the Barbican. It was so huge in scope. It was about the Bauhaus art school, the German art school. So my colleague Lydia Yee, when she finished the show that she was working on, we collaborated together to deliver it with the assistant curators to support, because it was so humongous, like such an immense amount of history and work to investigate and research, but then also just like the loans of hundreds of different works from across the world. So there's a lot of coordination. So that was another huge undertaking, and we got a grant quite late on in the project, because we weren't going to do a catalogue necessarily, and we got a grant to do a book. So that was all kind of crazy busy. So you're always in these cycles of sort of developing a show, delivering one, and then kind of keep moving forward like that. So and then the biggest kind of piece of independent research that I did there was a project about the work of Charles and Ray Eames in the Eames office. And like the Bauhaus, there hadn't been really a full-scale survey of the Bauhaus in the UK for a long time. There'd been an Eames show about 20 years before, but there was still lack of understanding of the full range and breadth of their practice. People still say to me now, oh, the people who design chairs. And you're like, yes, but also all this other stuff. So, the task, I suppose, is always to how could you make these historic subjects feel relevant for our time? How can you unfold, creative practice in a way that feels, dynamic and interesting for now, not just a sort of historic survey. What we did with the Bauhaus was really try to sort of lean into what it felt like, or what it, and how it had been documented as an art school experience, with all of that sort of experimentation. So we showed a lot of work by students who are unknown, and pulled back on the kind of presentation of works by key teachers like Kandinsky and Klee, which are important, but also, their teaching was what it was really trying to explore, and the culture of the school in that sense. So
what
the
an undertaking.
It was amazing. What a privilege. And then the Eames exhibition, I opened in October 2015, and that summer I'd been approached asked to invite, I was invited to go apply for a job back at the V&A, working on V&A East.
Wow.
So I gave that some thought, and I wasn't really looking to leave the Barbican, because I loved it, and I loved working with everybody there in the immediate art team, and then programmers and curators in different art forms were always really collegiate, always happy to we did an Eames film day in the cinema. Lydia had done this great show about Robert Rauschenberg, Jasper Johns, John Cage and Merce Cunningham, and there were all sorts of events that happened in the theatre as well as the gallery space, so you could really cross all these boundaries. But V&A East represented a kind of chance to scale up my curatorial thinking and conceive a new museum, and in the place in London where I was born and grew up. So it was sort of, you couldn't really say no. I mean, obviously, I had to apply again, and I got the job, so that was nice.
But you were talking about your earliest experience of art being at the Jeffrey Museum, right? A museum in East London. Yeah. So that is. Yeah,
and of course the V&A has the Museum of Childhood, or what was called the Museum of Childhood.
Yeah.
The young V&A, and now in Bethnal Green. So.
And was that around when you were a child?
It was. It's actually, the Bethnal Green Museum has been there since the late 19th century.
Oh.
It only became the Museum of Childhood in the 70s.
Wow.
But yeah, it's a kind of rite of passage to go there as a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very age specific, so there's a point at which you stop going there. Or I'd go back if there were certain exhibitions on, or you just want to walk down the sort of memory lane of, you know, how childhood, I suppose. It was fun.
What a dream job for a curator to get. Right, so you've just landed back at the V&A and you've got to start conceiving a museum in your old neighbourhood. Where do you start?
Well, we sort of inherited, there'd been a design competition, so there was a shape of a building, but I guess, you know, the job I had was to work with a team that I was sort of embedded in, you know, to really think about, well, what should it be? What does it need to be from the perspective of the V&A, the perspective of contemporary culture, from the perspective of place, of the population of that immediate environment? What are all the different opportunities? So we started to sort of scope out, generate ideas basically, and sort of pulling them apart. At some point, you know, at that point, I was the only person who was working on the project dedicatedly. So we'd work with people across the museum to kind of, you know, hothouse ideas and evolve thinking, and you know, and there were many people who were up for it, who were into it, and then quite a few people in the museum who felt a bit sort of threatened because they thought it might represent, you know, change in the budgets, and so I had to do a lot of groundwork to sort of, you know, build relationships across the museum. And for me, it was an opportunity to sort of, you know, in the wider sense of the arts museum sector, of diversifying that, you know. So I was going back to those feelings that I had when I first worked at the V&A. You know, this is 15 years later or whatever it was, or 10 years later. And, you know, how do you change the makeup of people who work in museums so that there's more representative of, you know, life, and how do you engage, make, you know, what the stories that museum shows and tells and what it collects represent a broader section of society as well. So these were some of the sort of, you know, goals and aims of the project. But it was a wild ride, because I think 2 years in, almost immediately, the DCMS decided, so this is 2015, so let's say in early 2016, the V&A was informed that it needed to vacate the building where it kept a large portion of its 3D collections in West Kensington. So suddenly the museum was like making a new museum, and then had to also deal with the conundrum of where it was going to move the 350,000 objects that it needed access to on a daily basis. And I think by 2017, the project that we were developing for the Olympic Park had to be remaster planned. And so so I went from basically doing one building to two buildings, and completely reconceiving what V&A East was as a consequence of these kind of, the morphing kind of, you know, landscape of politics and economics and practical need and so on. Mm-hmm. So it's ended up as, you know, V&A East Storehouse, which opened last year, V&A East Museum, which is opening in April this year. So my team and I, which I'd started to sort of gently, slowly build out, wrote the curatorial briefs for those buildings, developed
the two separate buildings.
Yeah. But interconnected and connected through their sort of values and programming and their curatorial agendas. So it's super exciting to see it all come to fruition, with, you know, from the very first ideas where we were just trying to sort of articulate and sketch out what it could be, to being a built experience and a live place.
And so the storehouse became pretty much a unique thing, right? That sort of through circumstance, like you say, having to find somewhere to keep 35,000.
Well, this is where the museum was quite brave in that sense. It said, it did a lot of all the due diligence of, where can we put it? How much is it going to cost? What's the benefit? What's the need? And decided quite quickly not to just kind of take that portion of the collection and move it into a kind of, fairly low cost, semi-rural location. And decided that proximity to the working body of the museum in London was paramount, but that also critically that public access was paramount, and how could it go from a store that didn't really give people very much access on a year-on-year basis to being all about public access and engagement and going behind the scenes. So
where did that idea come from?
It sort of evolved over the years, starting with this problem of what do we do, and I think V&A East, even though it wasn't initially part of that sort of project of moving the collection, definitely was one of the major sort of catalysts of rethinking the museum for the 21st century, thinking about access, thinking about how and whose story is told, who's telling it, how to engage people in these collections that are publicly theirs. So there's been a lot of these sorts of ideas evolving across the museum body within the team that I was sitting in.
Yeah.
And I think that it also came together so that meant the leadership could, really get behind that and have the faith and have the confidence, I suppose, to say, this could be a new typology of museum experience, and we all collectively believe that it would be really popular and inspiring and interesting and engage particularly younger audiences in a way that maybe sometimes more traditional conventional museum experiences don't hold people's attention in the same way.
So much people don't realise, right? As art professionals, we understand the ins and outs of exhibition making and everything that's involved, but when you did that tour for us for the club DKUK, it really struck me that most of the people that go to museums do not know what a crate looks like, or the care and attention that goes into the storage of these work and the skill of it all, right? And so for me it really opened up the whole process of showing art, and I've always been interested in hiding nothing, and the fact that you can see the supports and the struts and people working on restoration or whatever is the whole artwork, becoming much more a part of everyday life. Which is,
the museum is a working place.
Yeah, and I was talking to a client here the other day who'd been on my recommendation.
Oh, right.
Been telling everybody to go and have a look.
Ooh.
And they couldn't believe how slow it all was. The technicians, they were just moving so slow.
But it's like moving a precious pot in your own home.
Exactly.
You take care, you don't want it to smash.
Yeah.
And the modern and contemporary art the media is so wide ranging, but also if you've got it demands a lot of different skills to be able to know how to handle something sensitively and carefully, but also the surface of an old painting is also vulnerable, and then in collections like the V&A, you've got everything from, you know, ceramic fragments to, you know, ancient textiles and fashion and metalware.
And I just love how
painting, prints, drawings, photographs.
much of a jumble it was as well, you know, like,
Yeah.
in the best possible way,
Yeah.
you know, like a real sort of like, yeah, cacophony of culture.
Yeah, I think we decided pretty early on to lean into that kind of, you know, the eclecticism of the collection. And any collection is just, you know, an assemblage of things that, you know, changes over time as different specialists and experts acquire things and shift the curatorial kind of focus. So it's really, you know, it's been a collection that's been around for quite some time, and it's grown and morphed and changed according to those shifts in visual and material culture. So it's, and because it's, you know, it's art, design, craft, it's quite representative in many ways. It's really diverse. So it's not, you know, it's a long-winded way of saying it's not just painting.
Yeah.
For example.
It's the Bowie archive, right? And all those clothes.
Yes, yeah. There's also, you know, as well as the collection, there is a collection of archives of companies, archives of people. So the David Bowie archive was one of the last things that I worked on before I moved on to another position, and he had wanted his collection to go to the V&A because it's the National Theatre and Performance Collection, but also I think, you know, he was so interested in lots of different cultural art forms that I think what was really special about acquiring his archive was that it could be brought into dialogue with, you know, artifacts from the Japanese collection about, you know, theatre and performance, or so on and so forth.
Him being such a chameleon and taking
Yeah.
it from
Exactly.
sources. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the brilliant things about the V&A's collection, is that you can have this sort of wide-ranging dialogues as part of the sort of creative process. You know, other collections, other archives, you know, there are other performers. PJ Harvey's given a lot of material from her personal collection in recent years. Designers like Kenneth Grange and you know, but also 19th century specialist sort of metalware producers like Elkington and stuff. So there's a real kind of huge resource in that sense, and that's partly was the motivation as well. It's like how can the collection be not just something you go and kind of look at and read about, but how, like, many companies and individual designers and makers come to the V&A for inspiration, and that sort of source book nature of the collection was also something that was important to the storehouse vision. You know, how
and people don't need special access for that, if I understand correctly. Anyone
yeah, I mean
can go
that's
and
the other
request stuff.
been the other kind of brilliant opportunity, is like how, yes, anybody can request stuff because it's a public collection. You don't need to sort of, you know, have a sort of stated highly specific research purpose,
which I think is the case to go to the Tate Library or the British Library or many other like archives.
Yeah, I guess
accreditation
because
from
it's
somewhere.
you know, yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think they're probably inundated with everybody wanting to look, and they've had to sort of limit, you know, the amount of works you can request at any one time in order to be able to offer that service to as many people as possible. I'm sure there's a bit of, you know, recalibrating that will be done over the years to make sure that researchers can get to what they need to get to, and the public can get to what it wants to get to. And it's just a balance. But it was such a radical shift from what was practically possible previously. And I think what's also, you know, been an important factor is the way that, you know, and most museums have a fantastic offering for school age pupils, older students, specialist groups, and the storehouse has got that sort of baked into it as well in terms of working with school groups and students to go a bit deeper or to develop a particular creative brief, and it's got the sort of spaces and resources and expertise where it can do that, and that's so amazing to be able to, when the last time I was in there, there were a group of, I think it was sixth form students who were working, I don't know, actually I'm going to probably get this wrong, but let's say they were working with East London Dance Company and some choreographers from Wayne McGregor's studio to devise a performance in front of one of the stage cloths that's currently on display, which was a Ballet Russe cloth designed by Picasso. You just think, so you've got this amazing kind of world of dance history that you can explore, and the original artifacts there. Then you've got the local expertise of like choreographers and performers from Wayne McGregor and East London Dance. What a kind of extraordinary world to kind of help you kind of discover and develop your own creative thinking at that age. It's amazing.
The visit made me proud to be alive in London, and to know you personally, to get taken round, and to be close to the conceiving of it, and just the fact that thing exists is a really remarkable thing. I hope they figure out how to make it work with the budget and all that sort of stuff, because that cannot be easy. Well, it's proving hugely popular. Yeah, that's great.
But it's the conundrum for all cultural institutions. Everybody's having to do the same or more with less. There's not enough state subsidy. There's portions of private philanthropic support, but again, it's not the same incentive as it might be in other countries. People have like less and less disposable income, so where they go and spend it is, it's a bit of a tussle, and it's
It is the same across the entire economy, isn't it?
Yeah. Restaurants and even hairdressers are all facing that tough situation.
We're going to dry your hair off now.
Oh.
And then we'll see where we get to with dry.
Very good. That's it. Very good.
Thank you for the insights into the V&A East. What a project it must have been to work on.
Yeah.
And so after that, what was next for you on your career?
Well, at the beginning of 2023, I've been offered a job in Denmark at a museum called Aarhus in Aarhus, which is the second city in Jutland, in the sort of north of the country. And so I relocated to Denmark, and the job there was a bit different. It was much more visual arts focused. Just to oversee the curatorial and learning teams. It's about 20 people together. It's a museum with a collection. It was largely Danish, but also international. Wide-ranging sort of mix of artistic practice, and they were building a new James Turrell Sky Space at the same time. So it was about sort of like, a new chapter in the programming, the exhibition programming, thinking about expanding the collection, and then delivering this new wing of the museum. So I really like the capital project work, where you're kind of revisioning places, thinking about public experience, architecture, design, all of that coming together. So I did a lot of work to restructure the team, rethinking the sort of vision with the newish director of the museum at the time. Recruited some new curators, started putting some sort of anchors in the forward program of collaborations with other institutions internationally to bring their collections to Denmark, commissioning artists to make new work for the new space that opened last year. So quite varied, but I think I was just finding it really difficult to settle in Denmark. My husband couldn't move out until 2025, and so after about 18 months I decided to call it quits and came back to the UK. I'd employed a British curator as well, Isabella Maidment, who was fantastic. And she took over from me for about sort of 6 months, and then was offered a position in Oslo. So she's still living out in the Nordics. There was a lot of interesting work going on there, but it was just sort of too difficult to make it work with my family. So
big change.
A big change.
The context.
Yeah,
so
and
much to do. It sounds like you are so interested in the culture and the context of showing art, and like you're growing up and talking about how you felt like an outsider and wanting to change that, and that's different in different countries, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
and
America is different again. They're going to have different nuances.
Yeah, and I was living in Aarhus is a lovely city, but it's also very small, and I think I realised that I like there's something about the context of a large international city with incredibly diverse population in all the ways you want to sort of look at that, and I really missed that too. So I came back to London and thought, just spent some time thinking about what I wanted to do next, and the further up the kind of food chain you go, as it were, the more your roles become about management and leadership, and you get further and further away from some of the ideas and the work that led you to this field in the first place. So there's a real moment for me to think about, like, well, what do I want to do at this point in my career? Do I want to go back to some research topics that I'd looked at before? Do I want to work on my own for a bit rather than folding back into a big institution? I love working with a team. I love developing younger curators, helping support people, helping with some of those sorts of social purpose goals of institutional working. But there was something about this time where I thought I actually just want to focus on a bit more of a kind of academic profile type opportunity. So an opportunity came up for me to I was offered a research fellowship by the family of the estate of Charles and Ray Eames, who were reorganizing a foundation in Los Angeles. And they asked me to come back and work with them over the course of 3 years, developing some research and producing a new publication and some new sort of convenings in the form of a kind of professional conference. So that's what I'm doing at the moment, and also then I thought, okay, well, this is great, so I can be based back here in London but also travel as I need to consult with different libraries, archives and collections. And so I thought, well, while I'm going back into that world, I could do a deep dive and turn that into a PhD. So I'm also a PhD researcher on the same subject. Yeah, so I'm doing that at the Royal College of Art. So it's it's an interesting time. It's giving me a lot of breathing space as we're looking at the words breathe in,
Yeah.
breathe out on the walls here. I'm thinking, yes, it's like breathing in and out, thinking about, remembering what it is that I enjoy about aspects of design history and delving into those sorts of, life and work and processes, and writing more and thinking about a very sort of singular topic, but from new perspectives. Asking myself where I would like to take this in the future. So it's good. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, fantastic.
I know. Treat.
Yeah. Okay, Catherine. So I hope you've been thinking about my final question. I like to ask people if you could be on somebody's shoulder, any artist in the widest possible sense, throughout any point in history, on their shoulder for a day or two, while they're making any artwork, who would it be, and what artwork would it be, and why?
Oh gosh, this is such a hard question, and I've gone through so many different people. Like my undergraduate dissertation at Sheffield, for which I won this tiny travel grant, was to go to Martha in Texas. This was 1997, so it was only a couple of years after he died, and it was before Martha became Martha.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, well, maybe Donald Judd, because I've always loved his work, and I would, want to spend time with just like understanding his process more. Obviously, a lot of his work was fabricated by other people, but he was incredibly precise. But then I thought, would it be that? I'm not sure. Maybe it would be a film director. I love the world of film, and I think that just kind of incredible blend of all of these different skills, from the director, the cinematographer, to the sound people, to the actors, to the production designers, to people who are set building. So it might be in that world. But when would it be? What would it be? Would it be?
You can only have one.
Would it be with Billy Wilder on Some Like It Hot? Probably. Or Fellini, 8.5. I don't know. Yeah.
It'd be quite different experiences, those two, I think, wouldn't they?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I know which one I'd go for. No, I don't.
Yeah, or talking about Twin Peaks, David Lynch making Wild at Heart, or yeah. So I don't know if that's an acceptable answer, but
Well, you've not chosen one.
oh right,
that's
so
not
I've got
an
to.
acceptable answer. You've got to choose one.
Okay. Oh, this is really a tough question. Then I would go into the studio with Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds while he was making an album called Henry's Dream. That's where I'd just be in the room. Henry's Dream.
Henry's Dream.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Listening to it. If you don't know it, you should listen to it.
Why did you
Lots of kind of, heavy, rattly, typical Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds songs from the 90s, but also the most heart-breakingly beautiful ballads. And very big, Southern Gothic storytelling.
Okay, well done.
Well, yeah.
Thank you.
Any one of those.
And
That is a
your
wrap.
haircut.
Excellent. Ooh, the mirror.
Here we go.
Ooh. A little different to usual.
We've had a little bit more time, yeah. We had the pressures of the salon there. So, still graduated here through the back,
nice, yeah.
and we've layered it through the top We've cut into it a little bit more maybe than usual, which has been quite nice. So that's really going to free it up around there. And just gone back in when it was sort of midway to release, midway dry to release a bit more weight. We've twisted in the curl cream.
Yeah,
and
lovely. Looks nice around the back,
hydration.
doesn't it?
Yeah, nice and shiny.
Very good.
And I don't think that needs any oil.
No.
No, because it looks shiny enough. Especially with all the light as well.
Yes. Fantastic.
Thank
you so much.
That was really good. Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, a real honour.
Well, the haircut's complete, and didn't it look great? Catherine said that she wasn't very articulate today, but man, what a speaker she was, and what an inspiring career that's been. I hope you found some value from it. I'm going to put a link to Catherine's website, and it's got some amazing photos of the exhibitions that she mentioned while I was cutting her hair. I loved that moment she noticed the breathing words on the wall and how she related that to where she was in her career. I thought that was very poignant. If you also felt like an outsider in the art world, drop us a comment and let us know. We're not alone, and we hope to see you next time in the DKUK podcast.